want everyone to know that if you feel confronted by what I say, good. Nah, just kidding. If you feel confronted, just know that I'm not here to blame and shame. I'm not here to try to make anybody feel bad about anything. I'm here for 3 reasons: to educate, to encourage, and to inspire. That's my goal today. I'm here to try to lift us up so that we can do better and that we can make this world a better place for us all to live. That's my goal today. And I want you to realize that anybody can do this, anybody can change. Me personally, I'm somebody who did not care about much else than just me only a few years ago. And now I've dedicated my whole life, I'm committed now to spreading this message and getting this out there and taking all kinds of, doing all kinds of interesting campaigns, like not talking for a whole year, getting tattooed for 24 hours straight. And it's just so important. So I'm going to tell you my journey. I think that's the best way to tell this story and to get this message out, to tell you how I came across it myself and the things I learned and the things that made me question the way I was living and the reasons why I changed. It all started for me about 13 years ago now, when I was diagnosed with leukemia and lymphoma. I was given 6 weeks to live if I didn't start treatment straight away. I got so sick. I was 17 at the time. I got so sick on the treatment. I put on, do you talk pounds here? Okay, I put on about 60 pounds so fast that the skin on my sides actually ripped and bled. I lost all my hair. I got pneumonia severely to the point where they said if I'd have stopped at one more red light on the way to the hospital, I'd probably be dead. There were times where I felt like people were beating me with cricket bats on my legs and dragging a knife up my spine, and 7 shots of morphine, and I still had no relief. It was the first time in my life that I had ever truly suffered. I'd never really suffered before. And I'm so grateful for this experience now, because it made me learn that to suffer is probably the worst thing in this world. When you are suffering, nothing else matters. All you want is to come out of that. And I was so lucky that I met a man who was a personal trainer who helped me get fit and get strong and healthy when I was able to start doing those things again. But more than just help me lose that 60 pounds and start looking like me again, what he'd actually done was helped me out of my suffering. And what a gift, man. I mean, if suffering is the worst thing that we can go through, then to come out of your suffering is the best feeling in the world. And closely followed by that, if coming out of your suffering is one of the best things in the world, then surely to help others out of their suffering is one of the best ways we can contribute to more peace and more happiness in this world. And that's what I learned through this. And I felt so excited and motivated by this man who had helped me out of my suffering. I decided I wanted to do the same for others. So I became a personal trainer too. For the next 8 years, very passionate about helping people with their fitness, with their health. I traveled around the world working on cruise ships. And you meet a lot of interesting people on cruise ships. A lot of weirdos. And a lot of very cool people. And actually, we stopped in at this port, actually. So anyway, one day I met a man, a very wise old Indian man. He talked like the Buddha, you know what I'm saying? Talked like he'd been blazing that BC bud, you know what I'm saying? Okay. He was deep, he was philosophical, he was intellectual, he was so interesting. And one day, after talking every day for 2 weeks, I just say, come back tomorrow, man, tell me more, tell me more. On the last day of his cruise, I was so close, I nearly got away. On the last day of his cruise, he said something to me that changed my life forever. He said, eating animals is bad karma. And I was like, I'm in trouble. I was eating animals breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I thought, I hope you're wrong. I didn't really believe in karma. I don't necessarily believe in karma now. But it was that planting that seed that made me think about it. He made it about me, that I might be harming myself by eating animals. I said to him, my go-to line. I've been a personal trainer for 8 years. And every time someone, like a vegetarian or whatever, would come to me wanting to get health advice, I'd say there's no such thing as a healthy vegetarian. I got vegetarians back on meat in my time. Bad man. And I said that to this man, there's no such thing as a healthy vegetarian. He said, I've been vegetarian for 20 years. I said, man, you should be dead. This is amazing. I didn't think it was possible. He said, I've been vegetarian for 20 years, I'm feeling pretty good, you know, I'm healthy. And for me, just him being alive was amazing. So I thought, okay, maybe there's something to this. This is a very wise man telling me this. Someone who I had a lot of respect for, who had built a lot of credibility with me in that 2 weeks. I thought maybe I'll try it just for 7 days, just to see how I feel. I won't eat meat. Now that was a big call for me because I was the biggest meat eater you could think of, mate. You've been on cruise ships, probably quite a few people here. You know what it's like. Every meal is a buffet. And I'm making the most of it. I've got piles of meat. No room for fruit and veggies, man. Nah, meat, that was it. That's all I was eating. So I thought, I'll do it 7 days, I'll see how I feel. 3 days in, I was expecting not to be able to get out of bed in the morning. You know, I hadn't had any protein in 3 days. But actually, I woke up on that third morning, I felt so good. I felt like I didn't need as much sleep. I felt really good after a shorter sleep. I was charging in the gym. I felt happy. I felt like I was still enjoying food. You know, I thought I was just going to be eating lettuce and tofu or something. I was eating good food, curries and burritos and all these things. And I felt better after my meals. Now, it might sound strange just after 3 days, but you really got to try to understand how much meat I was eating. No wonder I felt better. But at the time, I didn't get it. So I thought, what's going on? Why do I feel good? I haven't eaten meat in 3 days. This is so strange. This is the opposite of what I was expecting. I should look into this. And so that's what I did. I started getting into it. Can I keep this up? Can I be healthy like this? And if so, is this something I should be telling my clients, telling my friends, sharing this? I start researching. I realized not only can you be healthy without eating any animal products, but you're likely to be far healthier, reducing your chances of heart disease, cancers, diabetes, obesity, osteoporosis, and the list goes on and on. We're likely to live a longer life without eating animal products. Massive shock for me. I couldn't understand how I'd never come across this before. But thinking back now, this information had trickled into me over the years, but because I was so closed off from the idea of ever cutting meat out from my diet, I didn't pay attention. I remember thinking, that's not for me. I remember one time I saw this footage of someone pouring some Coca-Cola on some pork, and all these worms crawled out of it. And I went, yuck, but that's not my meat. That doesn't happen in my meat. And I'm telling myself all these stories. So I thought, okay, this is healthier, great. I can't wait to tell everybody. You know how it is. When you go vegetarian, you're like, everyone needs to go vegetarian. Sit down, I've got to tell you all this new information I've just learned. You start preaching, you get excited. And everyone's like, calm down, man. You were just eating meat like 4 days ago. What the hell's been going on with you? I start getting real excited, you know, learning, going, oh my God, I can live longer, healthier. This is so great. I'm so excited. And through all my research, you know, I really got into it. I learned that not everyone is vegetarian for health. A lot of people are vegetarian for the animals. This was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard. I did not get it at all. Why would you change your life for animals? They don't know. They don't know what you're doing. They're not even capable of caring about their own life. So why would I care about their life? That's what I always thought. I did not understand what animals are capable of, who they are, what it means to share this world with them. But everyone's recommending me this documentary. Watch Earthlings, watch Earthlings. I was like, Earthlings? That sounds pretty chill. So I just fired up, let's check it out. For those of you who haven't seen Earthlings, it's a must watch. And it's not easy. Don't think you're going to enjoy it. It shows all the ways that humans exploit animals for food, clothing, entertainment, medical testing. It's gruesome. It's graphic. There's screams. There's terror. It's torture. It's killing. It's not easy to watch. But it's one of the best things that I've ever watched in my life. I'm so grateful I've seen it. Because before, I'd seen footage of animals being killed before for food. But that was when I was under the impression that we needed to eat animals to be healthy. So when I watched Earthlings and I saw what we do to them and I heard their screams, it led me to the question, if we don't need to kill and eat animals to survive and thrive, then what are we doing this to them for? And I thought there must be a good answer. There must be a good answer to this question, surely. Because everybody says that they love animals. And if you don't love animals, we can all agree that needless animal cruelty is wrong. 99% of people will agree with that. So I thought there must be something I'm missing here. What is it? And so I looked. I wanted to find the reason why this was happening. And I looked and I looked and I looked. And the best justifications there are for what we do to animals is taste, habit, tradition, and convenience. And I thought about these reasons, and I thought about what I'd seen and how it affected me, and I realized that is not anywhere near a good enough justification, any of those four, for this exploitation, this torture, this cruelty, and this killing. Not even close. I definitely wasn't an animal lover. I was not an animal lover. I didn't really like animals very much. But I don't hate them. I don't despise them. I don't want them to suffer and die needlessly because of me. I've always strived to be a compassionate, loving, respectful, peaceful person. If I saw someone hurting an animal, even though I didn't really have much affinity with animals, I would still be over there and stopping that abuser. Even if it was an animal that I ate, I would still stop them. Say, hey, this animal doesn't deserve that. And I would stand up for that innocent victim against this bully, against this oppressor. So I thought, how can I feel like that? But then on the other hand, 3 times a day, I'm paying someone to do that for me. And in the law, in this country, in Australia, if I pay someone to kill somebody else, I'm equally responsible for that murder. And same goes when it comes to purchasing animal products. You're not just purchasing a neatly wrapped package of food, you are paying for everything that happens to that animal before it becomes in that package. And I realized I'm not okay with this. Fair enough if we have to survive, like a lion. But we have an opportunity to eat other things. And when the difference is between all this suffering and peace, it's an easy choice. So I decided I would stay vegetarian for the animals. And I started telling everybody now, you gotta go vegetarian, man. You know, I was telling you about the health benefits the other day? They're still there. But you know what happens to the animals? And everyone was answering me like this, don't tell me, man. I don't want to know. Don't spoil my dinner. I was like, what do you mean you don't want to know? This is so important. You're an animal lover. That's why I'm telling you. I don't even really like them that much, and I think this is important. Don't tell me, man. And I'm like, what? I couldn't get it. And I realize now there's so much to this. There's a lot of psychology behind this. We've all been brought up into a world that has taught us eating animals is natural and normal and necessary. We're told that we need meat for protein. We're told that we need cow's milk for calcium. We're told that animals are killed humanely, and we're told a whole bunch of other things that make us not even question what we're doing. In fact, none of us really made the choice to start eating animal products. This is how we were brought up. None of us one day said, is this something that I want to choose to do? We don't even think about it. It's on our plate. We don't even think about it. This made me think about it. I decided I'm vegetarian for the animals now. And this Indian man who sent me on this down this rabbit hole about 14 miles deep, I said, how do you know all this information? You're so wise. He said, meditation. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Meditation, come on man. What books have you read? What courses have you done, you know? He said, mate, I learned this through meditation. It's a valuable tool to gain wisdom. I didn't believe him, but I was like, I'll try it. So I booked in for a 10-day meditation course. I don't muck around. I'm not like, I'll start doing 10 minutes in the morning. You'll see, this is a common thread in my life. It's not always good. I'll dive in the deep end. I'll go to a 10-day meditation course. We meditate 10 hours a day for 10 days. I don't know what I was thinking. I get home after my cruise ship, about to start my meditation. Everyone's like, are you still vegetarian, man? Like, people have been calling each other. We're all worried about you. I'm like, yeah, I'm vegetarian. You're going to be vegetarian soon too. You need to sit down and watch this documentary with me. Earthlings, put it on. Trying to tell everybody. I go to this meditation. I'm 5 days deep meditating. This is like my 50th hour, something like that. And you don't speak for the whole 10 days either. And it's all about observing your physical sensations, and there's this technique to it. So I'm doing it, and then I get this really strong sensation come over me. And it was very strange. I'd never felt it before. I'm just sitting there on my cushion, just meditating, just like, what the hell's going on? And then eventually it passed, and I started thinking about it. I'm like, what the hell was that? And what I think it was, and what I hope it was, because I based a whole year of my life on this moment, I think it was my body trying to get me to speak, because I hadn't spoken 5 days. And I think that's what was happening. It's like trying to come out. Words were trying to come out, and I was just sort of suppressing it. And it made me think, wow, I haven't spoken in 5 days. That's pretty cool. I wonder how long you could do this for. Imagine doing this for another month. Oh, that would be pretty hard. And then for some reason I thought, imagine doing this for a whole year. And here's the danger with meditation. When you meditate a lot, you get really positive, and all ideas seem like good ideas. So it's very dangerous. You need to meditate with caution. I have this idea to do a year-long vow of silence. Any other day I would have been like, no way. But on this particular day, for some reason I thought this is a good idea. So I put it on my to-do list. And before I finish my meditation the next 5 days, I'm thinking about it. How can I make this work? I thought, I can't just come home from my cruise ship and say, guess what, everybody, I've gone vegetarian. People are already worried. And I can't get back from my meditation and say, guess what, everyone, one more little thing. I'm not going to talk for a whole year. People are going to think I'm on drugs, man. So I thought, I need some sort of reason to do this. What can it be? What do I care about? Maybe I could do it to raise awareness for something. And I care about people. That's why I was a personal trainer, trying to help people with their health. But my newfound passion for animals, for helping animals, they seem like they needed it more than anybody. And my newfound passion for helping animals, I'd only been vegetarian for 3 months, but it was so strong. I felt like I'd awakened this part of me. My circle of compassion had extended. It was such a positive thing. I thought maybe I could do it to raise awareness for animals. They're voiceless, I'll be voiceless. Good enough. That works, right? But is this a big enough cause? I keep telling people don't seem to care. So I look into it a little more. And I realize this is so all-encompassing. We're talking about human health. Right now, we have an epidemic of illness and disease. Our friends, our family are suffering and dying decades before they have to. Heart disease, the biggest killer in humans on this planet, barely needs to exist. Cancer, they estimate 70% less cancer cases would exist if we didn't consume animal products. The only diet, by the way, that has been shown to reverse heart disease is a diet free from animal products. This is a serious thing. I don't want my friends and family to suffer and die. I want them to be around for as long as possible and enjoy their life. I don't want them to be on all these medications. So I thought, this is big for people. You know, if we can live more healthy lives and feel better and not have to witness our friends and family suffer, this is huge. But what else is going on? Something I never cared about, something I never thought about, is this planet, the environment. I didn't care about it because I thought, why care? Someone else has got it covered. The government will sort it out. I don't know why I thought that. So naive. Right now, animal agriculture is the leading cause of deforestation, species extinction, habitat loss, ocean dead zones, greenhouse gas emissions. They estimate that by the year 2048, which isn't long away, there will be no fish left in the ocean. There are more greenhouse gas emissions produced by the methane that comes out of cows than by every single transportation device on this planet. It is truly destroying this planet. It's completely unsustainable. And our next war may be over water rather than oil. That's where we're at. It's not a good place to be in. And animal agriculture is the leading issue. But I couldn't keep coming back. I couldn't help but keep coming back to the animals. What we're talking about here is numbers that you can't even grasp. But I'll tell you them anyway. 56 billion land animals and approximately 3 trillion sea animals are exploited and killed every year for foods and products that not only we don't need, but that we're better off without. That's over 3 trillion innocent beings who feel pain and suffer just like we do. They have their own friends, they have their own families, they communicate with each other. They are their own communities. They have their own heart, they have their own brain. They eat, they breathe, they sleep. What more do we need to have in common with them before we stop waging this war against them? So innocent, so vulnerable. In fact, we treat the worst offenders on this planet, child molesters, murderers, serial killers. We treat animals worse than we treat the worst offenders on this planet. And they have done nothing wrong, ever. I realize this is over 3 trillion reasons to take this vow of silence for the animals. So I started learning more. I needed to learn more. I thought, I'm going to put myself in the public eye here. I'm going to travel around Australia, write a blog about it on Facebook, and hopefully the vow of silence is interesting enough that people want to follow the journey. But I needed to learn more answers. Everyone's asking me all these questions. Where do you get protein? I'm like, I don't know. I think it's in lentils or something. What about free range? And I was like, maybe. I don't know. Humanely slaughtering animals? I thought, is that better? What if we don't eat animals? Won't they kill and eat us? I was like, chickens are going to do that? Come on, man. That one I knew. A lot of questions come. So I thought I need to learn the answers to all these questions. And during this time is when I learned that being vegetarian was not actually the answer. What I had done was stopped eating meat. But what I had learned was that there is at least as much cruelty in dairy, in eggs, in wool, leather, silk, in the clothing made from animals, in products that are tested on animals that contain animal products, in places that exploit animals for entertainment and for work. I thought it didn't make sense to be against cruelty to some animals and pay for it to happen to some others. It didn't make sense to be against certain types of cruelty and not other types of cruelty. If you're against violence, if you're against injustice and oppression, then what I realized is the least we should do, the first thing we should do, is stop paying for it. And that means to go vegan. And this is something, yeah. The best thing. And this is something that I'd always thought was extreme. Vegans, oh, calm down, go vegetarian, relax. I didn't get it. The only thing I knew about vegans was this. One time, one of my friends said that Grant, our mutual friend, had gone vegan. I was like, what does that mean? He said, I don't know, man, he doesn't sit on leather couches anymore. I was like, what? What the hell? That guy was normal in high school, man. What happened? A vegan is somebody who doesn't consume any animal products. We don't support any animal exploitation. We don't eat them, we don't wear them, we don't use them for medical testing, we don't use them for work. We just let them live their life however they want. We don't interfere unless it's perhaps to help them. It's just simply the golden rule in action. It's about treating others the way that you would want to be treated. I don't want to be abused. I don't want to be killed. Just because they're a different species, so what? I don't think that should matter. And that's what being vegan is. It's the most chill thing I can think of. And I realized in this moment that veganism is not extreme. What's extreme about not wanting to hurt animals? Isn't actually that how most people already see themselves against animal cruelty? What seemed extreme in this moment was that the way I was living my life, consuming animal products when I didn't need to, it seemed extremely cruel and extremely violent and extremely unnecessary. I thought, okay, veganism is actually not extreme, man. I don't know what I was thinking. This is so good. So I started working towards being a vegan. Didn't happen overnight. I was a big ice cream eater, my friends. I loved it. Breakfast, I'm having ice cream. Lunch, I'm having ice cream. But then I learned an amazing recipe that if you blend a few frozen bananas with a bit of soy milk, it turns into banana ice cream. They should have taught us that when we were this high. I don't know why I never learned that. It's the best recipe. You chuck in a bit of peanut butter or something. We've got a few banana ice cream fans in the back there. Oh, we've got a lot of fans. It's the best, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so after a while though, when I learned that we've got every single, I thought what was going to happen when I went vegan. Okay, I'm going to be sacrificing the enjoyment of food, but that's okay. I think it's more important to do the right thing by our fellow earthlings. If I have to live on lettuce and tofu, whatever. Beauty of it is, every single meal that you already enjoy, there is a vegan version. Vegan cake, vegan pasta, vegan pizza, vegan burritos, vegan curries, vegan ice cream, vegan meat, vegan chocolate, vegan milk, vegan cheese. You name it. So what happens when you go vegan? It's so ironic. You got all the recipes that you would have eaten, but the vegan version, but then you get more recipes because then you got all these vegan meals and vegan foods that you would never have tried before. I never tried tempeh before. And to be honest, the first time I tried it, I blended it in my smoothie because I was freaking out about not getting enough protein. But now I know how to eat it. And you put it in a stir fry. Don't do what I did. Learn from my mistakes. So many delicious foods, literally millions of recipes out there. You're at a festival right now, we've got ice cream over here, we've got burritos over there, we got it all. You're not missing out on anything. The only thing you miss out on, cholesterol, saturated fats, high concentrations of pesticides, hormones, animal cruelty. That's all that happens, that's all that you miss out on when you go vegan. It's all the things you don't want anyway. So I was so excited, and then I started my vow of silence, January 1st, 2014. Clock struck midnight, I went voiceless. It was a very anticlimax moment because when exciting things happen, you want to cheer, and I just had to be like, wasn't that good? Anyway, build up, let down, no worries. I started traveling. The plan was to travel around Australia and to spread this message online. I met somebody who was fluent in sign language, which was great because before I was writing everything down and it was killing me, I think of a funny joke, I'm like, oh, and halfway through I'm like, this isn't funny anymore. But then I met someone with sign language. You know how people do sign language and they do this? Anyone get that? They talk like this with no noise. Some of you are like, oh yeah, I gotcha. Some of you are like, what the hell did he say, man? And that's what happened to me the whole year. There'd be two people next to each other, do the same thing. One's nodding and one's like, what? But it helped a lot. It made it so much easier to communicate. So I started talking with my mouth without words. And this gave me the opportunity, I felt, to interact more with people than I was expecting. And the first thing I wanted to do was meet these animals that I was standing up for. I'd never been around any animals before, except for my dog. And to be honest, I wasn't even a fan of my dog. Bruce, I'm sorry, man. I love Bruce now. But it was because I just didn't understand them. I just didn't understand, that who they are. I'll explain. So I go to this animal sanctuary, a rescue farm, walking around. The woman, she was really excited. It's the voiceless guy. I was like, what's up? cruising around. She shows me the horses. This is Harry the horse. This is Peter the horse. I was just like, okay. You know, I'd never met horses. I thought it was a little bit weird that she'd name them, but I don't know why I thought that. And then she takes me to the chickens, and there's all these chickens, like 30. She starts telling me all their names. This is Sarah, this is Jasmine, this is Jemima. And I was like, come on, you're lying to me. You don't know all their names. You know, I'm just thinking, I'm not saying it obviously. I'm like, why would you even name them? They're just chickens. Now, you know how there's those people out there, there's like cat people. They have like 45 cats at home, a little bit obsessed. There's also, see, someone shouted, there's one here, be careful. There's also chicken people. You see what I'm saying? I'm not joking. And they love chickens. And this is one of them. And I'm explaining to her, I'm like, well, you know, without words, but I'll just say it so it's easier for you. Why would you name them all? They're just chickens? Oh my goodness. So she explained, what are you talking about? They're just chickens. Like, is this the guy doing the animal thing? They're all individuals. They all have their own thing going on. You know, like Jasmine, oh, she's so sweet. She loves a little cuddle, you know. Stay away from Sarah. I'm like, which one's Sarah, man? She'll rip you to shreds. I thought, okay, this is the first time that I thought maybe they do have their own thing going on. Humans, we're all similar, but we're all individuals. We'll have our own heart and our own brain. Maybe it's the same for other animals. Honestly, it had never crossed my mind before that they were even that complicated. Next day, something amazing happened, and we got a phone call from a place who had rescued a baby cow, which in the industry, the dairy industry, is seen as a waste product. So it's a baby boy cow. The reason why baby boys in the dairy industry are waste products is because they'll never produce milk. And the industry exists to create income for money. So the baby boys are seen as a waste product. Now, a lot of people don't know this about dairy. I'm going to tell you what happens in the dairy industry. Obviously, meat, it's been cut off an animal's body. Suffering and death, no doubt. But in the dairy industry, we see this carton of milk, this white liquid, with this silhouette picture of this happy cow, and you don't think anything of it. But in fact, the dairy industry is at least as cruel as the meat industry. So this is what happens. First of all, for a cow to give milk, just like a human, she has to either be pregnant or have recently given birth. For that to happen in the dairy industry, a human will shove their arm into her anus and then inject her vagina with bull semen. They do this on an apparatus in the industry commonly known as a rape rack. She has a 9-month pregnancy, just like a human, and then gives birth. When she gives birth, her babies are taken from her because they can't have the babies staying around drinking all the milk that the humans want. So they separate the mothers from the babies. And this is one of the most traumatic experiences for a mother cow in her life, and they do not have a good life. She will often cry and bellow for days, returning to the same spot she last saw her babies, looking in the same direction she last saw her babies. It's traumatic. The babies, they're also obviously frightened and scared, pining for their mother, and the baby boys, the waste products, are sent to the slaughterhouse. At the slaughterhouse, the babies will be shot in the head with a bolt gun. It fires a bolt through their skull into their brain, just to pierce their brain enough to stun them. And then they get their throats slit. These babies, the most cute, innocent beings on this planet, so gentle, so soft, couldn't hurt you if they tried. That's how we treat them. And we call this something. Humane slaughter. We call it humane. So I'll tell you the definition of humane. Humane means to show compassion. Is there a compassionate way to murder somebody? Is there a compassionate way to abuse a child? Is there a compassionate way to slit a baby animal's throat? There is no compassionate way to kill somebody who doesn't want to die. The industry, obviously so clever, so much money behind them to market these products of cruelty. It's a very clever word they use to make us feel better about our choices. The best way to figure out if something's humane or not is to ask yourself how you would feel in their situation. Would you agree that it's humane? Would you like it to happen to you or one of your family members? I definitely don't want to be humanely slaughtered. I definitely don't want that to happen to one of my family members. You imagine it like this. I've got a brother, his name's Jono. Love him. He's a legend guy. And I let him free range every day. And then one day in his sleep, boom, I shoot him. He didn't feel it, he didn't see it coming. Now that's not what happens to these animals, but let's say it was. And I go to the court and I say, relax, judge, humane murder. Is he going to be like, oh, of course. Did you eat him after? Yeah, no worries, don't worry about it. No. He's going to say, there is no humane murder. What are you talking about? You have robbed him of his greatest gift. You've robbed him of his life, the most precious thing any of us will ever possess. You've robbed him of his entire future, his entire existence. That's one of the most cruel things you can do. Doesn't matter if they see it coming or not. Doesn't matter if they felt it or not. It is still so cruel. And that's what happens to these baby boys. The baby girls have the same fate as their mother, forcibly impregnated, babies taken from her, hooked up to painful milking machines that will cause all different kinds of infections like mastitis. And then after 5 to 7 years of being so severely exploited, they can't continue anymore. And they also are sent to the slaughterhouse, humanely slaughtered. And in nature, cows can live 25, 30, sometimes even a bit older, 30 years old. So these are like children, basically, we're doing this to. Why? Why do we do all this? Why all this cruelty? Why all this deception? Why all this killing of these gentle, innocent animals? People like a piece of cheese on their sandwich. People like having a bit of cow's milk in their coffee, a bit of cow's milk on their cereal. The beauty is that we have alternatives to cow's milk. We're not baby cows. We've got soy milk, rice milk, almond milk, coconut milk, hazelnut milk. This is how easy it almost always is to be vegan. You go to the supermarket, the one you always shop at, and you're about to get the cow's milk, and then you go, oh, I'm vegan now. And then you just do this. And you just get different milk, soy, rice, almond. That's it. So easy, man. So easy. Even if you didn't have it, cheese is not oxygen. We can live without it. We don't need it. There's literally thousands and thousands of different foods we can eat without all that cruelty. So this is the dairy industry. And this boy, this baby boy that had come to the sanctuary, his name's Rupert. He was a lucky one. He was one of the lucky ones that got rescued. And it was my job to look after him, which I thought was a dangerous move. I'd never been around any baby animals or babies in general, really. But it was my job to give him the milk every day, this powdered milk. So I had this big plastic bottle with this rubber teat, and I'd just feed him every day. And I started to get to know this cow. Started to realize this isn't a thing like I kind of thought. This is a someone. This is an individual in here. You know, there's someone looking at me behind those eyes with their own wants and desires and communicating it in their own way. It was a very interesting experience. And then on the last day before I had to go, I wanted to say goodbye to Rupert, but obviously I couldn't speak and I didn't know any other way to say goodbye. So I just thought, what can I do? I'll try telepathy. So he was sitting over the other end of the barn. I wanted to say goodbye, so I just looked at him. I'm like, Rupert. No, I didn't do that. I'm just kidding. I just thought it. In my head, I was just like, Rupert, it's been so good getting to know you and looking after you. I've learned so much, and it's time for me to go. But you're in good hands, and I'll come and see you in the future again one day. And this baby boy cow, he was amazing. You know, when he came, he was so unwell. His eyes were rolling in the back of his head. His umbilical cord was still attached. He could barely stand. He got to the point where he was very strong and healthy 6 weeks later. And he was looking at me the whole time that I thought that to him. And he starts walking over. And being the person who gives him the milk, he treats me different than he treats anybody else. And pretty much our whole relationship is him headbutting me and slobbering on my pants, trying to get milk out of me. They headbutt their mum's udder when they want to let their mum know that they're thirsty. So I'm thinking, here we go, he's coming over. I just put these pants on, like, oh well. And he comes over and he does something that he has never done. Never done. He comes over and I'm expecting it. And instead, he just nuzzles his head on my leg. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? So I see how far I can push it. I bend down, expecting big cow tongue on my face. And I'm just patting Rupert. I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I'm just thinking, we're having a moment here. What's going on? So weird. Now, I'm not saying that he heard me. He did. I don't know if he heard me. I don't know. I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying that. But it did make me think, whoa, this is so strange that he's treated me like this. You know, just at this time when I'm saying goodbye to him, this is so odd. Did he get some sort of vibe? Yes. I don't know if he did. But it made me think, what do we really know about these animals? We think we know so much. A lot of us think a lot of wrong things about animals, just like I did. But we will never fully grasp and understand the complexity, the consciousness, the awareness that these fellow earthlings have. We'll never fully understand it. We'll have ideas about it. We'll write a few things about them. Cows are this, cows are that, pigs are this, pigs are that. But we'll never fully understand. We need to open our minds about who these animals are and what their lives mean. You know, if to nobody else, what's definite is that their lives have value to them. And shouldn't that be enough reason for us to treat them with kindness? Because they value their own life? Do we have to value them? Do they have to be able to sing songs and write poetry and do things that humans do for them to hold value? No, I don't think so. This instance with Rupert really fueled my fire because I had seen now, not just on YouTube, the dairy industry. This is a victim of the dairy industry, a baby wanting his mum, whose brothers were just killed. You know, it really fueled my fire. I wanted to see more. So I travelled around Australia, I kept moving. I started visiting the factory farms. You know, that's where over 97% of animal products come from. The vast majority of animal products come from these places. I started going in there hoping that it wasn't as bad as what I'd been led to believe. And I've never been in such a disgusting place, a hellhole. This is the part I struggle with. I can never do justice with words what it is like in these places. It's just like hell, man. I can't describe it. There's babies squealing in pain in their last moments. There's animals that have been squashed by their mothers because they were stuck in such a small cage that they couldn't escape. There's blood, there's screaming, some have lost their eyes, some are just sick. It's filthy, it stinks. I just can't even do it justice. It's disgusting. But even if it wasn't like that, even if there was a nice farm where you got your food and they got belly scratches every day, animals are still not ours to use. They are not our property. They are not machines. They're not ours. No matter what kind of use we're using animals for, it's wrong. All use is a form of exploitation. All exploitation is a form of abuse. And all abuse is wrong. Doesn't matter how nicely they're treated in their life. It doesn't matter how nicely they're treated in their life. Obviously, less cruelty is better, but we shouldn't be looking for the right way to do the wrong thing. A lesser of two evils is still an evil, and all those free-range, grass-fed, organic animals get sent to the same slaughterhouse. That's something we can never avoid when it comes to animal products. Seeing all this took it to another level for me. I realized my life, the importance that it had, it kind of lost in a big way. I kind of put my own life on the back seat. You know, I'm fine. We're so lucky. We're so lucky. We are at the top of the top of the top of privileged beings on this planet. We have more than we could ever want and then some. And what about them? They're at the bottom. They don't even have space to move and live their life or be able to be with their family. They've got nothing. And that's because of us. And so I decided, you know, some things in life are more important than your own. And I started dedicating even more to this, to spreading the vegan message. Next thing that happened, my van, my trusty van that I've been traveling in, broke down in the middle of nowhere, in the desert, on the other side of Australia. My friend was driving, so I blamed her. And then she said, I had to abandon it, basically, because it was going to cost so much money to get a new engine, to get the engine there, to get it put in. You know, I didn't have the time as well. She said, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to walk. You know how big Australia is, yeah? Big. It's like probably Canada to Canada, side to side, similar. Long walk. I said, I'm going to walk. She said, you can't walk. She's like a really smart person. You can't walk. I'm walking, man. She said, why don't you ride a bike? And I was like, that is such a better idea. I'm so glad we had this conversation. A bike, that's actually possible. Maybe I could do that. Thinking about it, I'm like, this could be a good idea. But first things first, I had a plane to catch. I was traveling to Bali. And the reason why is because one thing I wasn't expecting doing my vow of silence, I thought all my advocacy would be online. But actually every person that came into contact with me, they said to me, why are you voiceless? So it gave me an opportunity to give them some literature or a DVD, send them to my website, explain it with body language and playing charades, which I'm an expert at now. It gave me an opportunity to bring it up. I thought, how am I going to bring this up when I start talking again? What can I do? I know what I'll do. I get covered in tattoos. Everybody always says, what do your tattoos say, man? What do your tattoos say? I thought, cool, I'll get tattoos with a message. But I had to get up north in Australia. I had to hitchhike 2,000 kilometers. That's like, I don't know, 1,000 and something miles far. That's a really hard thing to do when you're voiceless. I don't know about here, but in Australia, hitchhikers get picked up by lonely people who want to have a chat. So I'd be like, come on. And then someone would let me in. Hey, how you going, mate? And I'd be like, can't talk. We just sit there. Awkward silence. There was one especially awkward silence that I'll never forget. I'd been hitching for like 6 hours trying to get out of this little town. Finally, someone was leaving. They went past me, and I was not having it. So I'm like waving like a wild person, get back here. And they come back, and I'd written my little note. Hi, my van broke down. I had to abandon it. I need to get north. I've taken a year-long vow of silence for charity. I didn't say for animals because I was in like cattle country. So obviously, I thought I'll just get in there first, then I'll start preaching, Get in there first. And he looks at my little note and he reads it. And he goes, well, that's a bit shit. I don't even know what he meant. What? Begging, please let me in. I get in then. So I get in there. So awkward. We're just sitting there looking at each other every now and then. And then he says, well, I'll put back my audiobook on then. Put my audiobook back on. Like audiobook? I was like, whatever. Puts this audiobook back on. It's the most Australian audiobook I've ever heard in my life. It's just got to this point where this guy has walked up the stairs and started slashing and gutting everyone. And I was like, I've seen some movies start similar like this. And he said, can you at least roll ciggies? Can you roll cigarettes? And thanks to last time I was in Canada, I can roll. I was like, yeah, man. So I'm rolling in like 1,000 cigarettes, just trying to be useful, Like, you need me, bro. You need me. Keep smoking. He takes me north. I travel to Bali. I get my tattoos. I'll tell you a couple of them. There's a lion here. It says, lions kill for need, humans kill for greed. A lot of people say, lions kill and eat animals, why can't we? Well, Lions do a lot of things. Sometimes lions kill and eat their babies, but you don't see people using that as an excuse to do that. Lions are obligate carnivores that don't have a choice. They have to kill to survive. Humans have a choice. Yes, we can survive by killing, but we can also survive by not killing. And as a civilized society, surely that's a no-brainer, you know? I've got over here, it's a photo of me when we rescued some chickens from a factory farm. It says, "We are fighting until every cage is empty, not until every cage is comfortable." It's not about bigger cages, it's not about more pillows, it's not about nice music playing. No innocent being deserves to be in a cage or used and abused in any way. This is my favorite. It's a picture of an orangutan and her baby. It says, "Because the heart beats under a covering of feathers, scales, wings, or fur, it is for that reason to be of no account." Just because these animals are covered in something different than us, is that a justification for us to do what we do to them? How many times have we already got this wrong? When white people believed they were superior to black people, and they enslaved them and killed them just because of the different color of their skin? What a ridiculous thing to put value on. What about when men believed they were superior to women? Just because of that, just because they were women. What a ridiculous thing to put value on. Meaningless. It means absolutely nothing. And what are we doing now? This isn't racism I'm talking about, and it's not sexism. It's called speciesism. It's when we use our membership into the human species to believe that we are superior to every other species. And so superior, in fact, that our taste buds and a fleeting moment of palate pleasure is more valuable than an entire animal's life. That's what speciesism is. It's a meaningless characteristic to create value on. Just what species they're in. Sometimes people say, but humans are more intelligent. Well, there's a lot of humans that aren't that intelligent. There is. Does that mean we're going to kill and eat them if they're not that smart? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people, well, they can't create a symphony. Neither can I, man. You know what I'm saying? Relax. Doesn't matter. What else have I got here? This is a couple of starving children. It says, "Every morsel of meat we eat is slapping the tear-stained face of a hungry child." What we do, actually, I'll tell you the statistic. This is the most alarming statistic I know. Every single day, 20,000 children die from starvation or malnutrition. One is too many. One is shocking. 20,000 a day? It just really illustrates how far from perfect our society is, how much growth we have got to go before we really got things right. We are a long way away. What we do is we take grain and food, we import it from the countries generally with the highest rates of starvation and malnutrition. We take this food and we feed it to these animals in our factory farms to fatten them up. We give them 6 to 12 times more food than what we can take. So we give them all this food and we take back so very little. How inefficient, how selfish, you know? Anyway, the tattooers tell the whole story. And I was with my tattooist in Bali, and he's an Indonesian guy, so there's a bit of a language barrier. There's also a communication barrier. I'm not speaking at all. And one day he says to me, he's eating lunch, he says, "Do you want some, man?" I was like, "No, I don't eat animals. Have you been tattooing with your eyes closed or something?" He said, "Nah, man, it's vegan." I nearly broke my vow right there. "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I thought, if you can do it, why can't I? And I was like, exactly, man. There's nothing special about me or any other vegan. Sorry, vegans. You don't need to be a highly intellectual person. You don't need to be an animal lover. You don't need to love tofu. You don't need to care about the environment, about your health. You don't need any of that. To be vegan, you only need to agree with one thing. And that thing is this: that causing needless suffering and death to animals is wrong. If you agree with that statement, then you already have veganism in your heart. All that's left for you to do is align your actions with your values. And that's it. In my opinion, veganism is normal. It's what all of us believe in already. The animal cruelty is wrong. And it's so easy to align. And when you do, when you align your actions with your values, you become more of who you really are. You're being the person that you're really supposed to be. You feel more peace, you feel more love, you feel better every day knowing that the choices you're making today are better than what they were yesterday. And it is a good feeling. That's why when you ask pretty much any vegan, and I've met thousands, you say, what's one of the best things you've ever done in your life? And in their top 3, a lot of them, they're number 1, when I went vegan. And there's a reason for that. See? It's good. Everyone agrees. So I get back after getting my tattoos. I had a 5,000 kilometer bike ride to do, which is like 3,000 miles. The longest ride I'd ever done was about 20 miles. I don't know what I was thinking. This is one of the worst things I've ever done in my life, not even joking. This was one of the most painful experiences of my life. It wasn't because my legs, I'm cycling by myself through the desert. It wasn't the heat, it wasn't the pain in my legs, it was the pain on my ass, man. My bum was killing me because my seat, it was like stone. I mouthed to the guy when he sold me the seat, are you sure about this seat? It seems really hard. He's like, yeah. So I honestly had some pretty bad thoughts about that guy when I'm cycling. Every moment was dedicated to maneuvering slightly around the bike to try to just even a little bit minimize the agony I was in. I promise you, I was nearly crying on that thing. I was in so much pain. And then as a stroke of luck, I accidentally broke one of my spokes, which is great. So I had a little rest. And as I was fixing it in the shop, I'm looking around just thinking, take your time, please. And I see this bike seat, one of them like gel cushion things. I get this seat, I sit on the bike, life-changing. I'm riding, I'm like, I'm gonna make it. I cycle across Australia by myself. The main reason I wanted to do that is to show people that you can be healthy and strong and athletic without eating any animal products. A lot of people's first worry is, what about protein? What about my muscles? What about strength? The world record-holding strongman is a vegan. Mr. Universe of a few years ago is a vegan. World champion arm wrestler is a vegan. World record-holding ultra-marathoner is a vegan. Some of the most elite athletes on this planet are not in the top 50 or even 20, but number 1 of the most intense and physically demanding sports that exists. And vegans are a tiny minority of the population, growing every day. But the tiny percent of the population coming number 1 in some of these extremely physically demanding sports, that says so much, because we're eating the way that our body is designed to eat. We don't look at animals and think, oh, yum. We don't watch slaughterhouse footage and salivate. We get disgusted by that. We see dogs and we're like, oh, cute, not, feeling pretty hungry. It's our body trying to tell us something. We want to help them out of their harm. So when we eat the foods that are natural to us, fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, legumes, which can turn into literally millions of recipes, our body thanks us for it. And that's why we live long, and that's why we can still be strong and athletic and healthy. And I wanted to prove that through my own journey. And also, to tell people about all these other athletes out there. I get back and I get an email from Sunrise Morning Show, which is the most popular morning TV show in Australia. And they said, James, we just caught on to your year-long vow of silence. We're wondering if you'd like to break your vow of silence on our show. And I was like, no way, man. You think I'm going to try to speak for the first time in a year on TV and embarrass myself in front of hundreds of thousands of people in one go? What if my voice doesn't work? Nah. Thanks, but no thanks. But then I thought about it, and I thought, damn, I'm going to have to do this for the animals. That's what this whole year's about. I'm just going to have to put all my fears to the side, because if I can get on TV and talk about this issue, it's going to help a lot. I spent 10 days in meditation prior, figuring out exactly what I wanted to say. And then I get there to the studio, I sit in the couch, I'm freaking out. And then they said to me, all right, James, what are your first words going to be? And this is what I did. I said, I want you to ask me why. And I said, okay, James, why did you do this? And I said, thank you for asking. It sounded like this. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. The reason I took this vow of silence is to raise awareness for the voiceless victims of this planet, the animals. We all say we love animals and we're against animal cruelty, but we pay people to mutilate and torture and slaughter animals. And it's not for any necessity. It's not because we need to for our health. It's because we like the way they taste. So I went voiceless because they're voiceless, I thought. But then I realized they're not actually voiceless. They cry in pain and they scream in terror. And when they do that, they're telling us that they're suffering. But the problem is we're not listening, because they're covered in feathers or scales or wings or fur. And they don't look like us on the outside. So we don't take their suffering seriously. I also did this to raise awareness for the way I've been living my life. I'm vegan, which means I don't consume any animal products. I don't support any animal exploitation. I wanted to show people through my journey how easy that is, how healthy that is, how delicious the food is, and that if you agree animal cruelty is wrong, that it's the right way for you to live your life too. And I don't think they were expecting me to say that, because their sponsor is Pork on the Fork, for one, so that was a little bit awkward. And they just cut the interview there. Oh, okay, yeah, they didn't ask me anything else, which was weird. I was like, man, I have answers to all the questions I'm expecting you to ask me. You better ask me. I spent 10 days thinking about these. I left there and I'm like, what happened? You know, did I do it justice? What did I say? It was such a blur. And I wasn't sure. And then I'm actually really glad that was a short interview, because short interviews, short videos get spread more on the internet. And this interview was seen millions and millions of times. It's so quick. It inspired thousands and thousands of people to make changes in their life. People had never heard this before. They never thought about it like that before. I received so many messages, and that's what it's about. It's about spreading this message. It's about educating each other how we can do better. Since then, I've traveled the world. I've got tattooed for 25 hours straight to raise some donations for animals. I've done almost 200 free speeches. I don't get paid to be here. I do this all for free. This is an important message. Because I believe in everyone here. I believe in us. I believe in humanity. I believe that when we know better, we'll do better. Because that's a good excuse. If you don't know, like I didn't, fair enough, you don't know. But when we know better, we should do better. As Einstein said, those who have the privilege to know have the duty to act. And veganism is not some mundane diet choice. This is the difference between enslavement and freedom, between torture and peace, between death and life. This is one of the most important things that we can learn about. This is one of the most important messages that we can spread. And this isn't happening in some other country, and it's not happening because of somebody else. It's happening because of us, and it can end because of us. And that is a thought I'm going to leave you with. Thank you very much. Thank you.